So, you booted up Nightreign and decided to read through both of the new characters' abilities, but notice something different about the Scholar and his passive. As you read through it, you start to wonder, what items does his passive work on, and how do I use this passive? Well, you've come to the right place, because today we'll be looking over exactly what Scholar's bagcraft ability does and how you can optimize its usage for your next runs. To learn how to properly use Scholar's passive and what it affects, we first need to know what it does. His passive pretty much gives him deeper pockets, allowing him to store additional resources and consumables, such as pots, crab legs, greases, whilst buffing the items, as well as giving them additional effects after consuming enough and leveling the items up. These items are split into 9 different categories, all of which universally level up as you use the items in the same category. This allows you to quickly level up items of the same type that you really want by simply snorbling up everything from the ground, like the gluttony war. Your goal with Scholar's passive is to consume as fast and as much as you possibly can in order to quickly level up your items up to level 3, because that's when items start to really get spicy. Level 1 items function the exact same as if any other character were to use them, and level 2 is generally just small stat upgrades. However, level 3 is, as I mentioned, where the items get crazy. Almost every item gets a completely new effect added to them, or gets a massive buff to their already existing function, giving this Scholar a massive arsenal of buffs, debuffs, and throwable items that he can additionally give to his teammates by using the Augur relic, enabling his support-oriented playstyles. Now that we've established what his passive does and how it works, let's go over all the 9 categories as well as what every item gets for each level, starting from the least useful all the way to the must-haves. One more thing to note, if you're new to the channel here, subscribe for more content and to become the Scholar in real life. Trust me, you will not regret it. But moving into the items, starting off with the least useful item, all bonuses get a damage reduction buff at roughly 5%. That's pretty much it. Bonuses are generally the worst to pick up and to keep, since most often than not, you're better off eating them for the permanent status resistance. When it comes to level 2, the bonuses get a slightly stronger healing effect, although I don't think it's worth keeping on you. Crystal tiers give you a +5 to all your stats at level 3, as well as even stronger bonuses than they already give you. The biggest issues with crystal tiers is that they are so rare to come by and cost so much that it's really hard to get to them to level 3. Throwables receive a massive damage buff at level 2, with all throwables receiving a stacking damage buff at level 3, indicated by the debuff symbol next to the enemy. Kukris and poison bone daggers get increased status build-up at level 2 instead, allowing them to pretty much proc their respective statuses significantly faster. Knives are generally very good to stack, as they can be really good for damage over longer ranges. However, finding actually good daggers such as Kukris and poison bones are pretty hard if you want to stack lots of them, and buying throwing daggers in bulk can be very expensive if you get them from the trader. The greases are split into 2 different types, elemental greases and status greases. Both greases gain increased duration at level 2, but level 3 is where the big changes come in. For elemental greases, you gain increased damage from the applied grease, whereas status greases see a massive increase in status buildup. Greases, especially status greases, are incredibly powerful for the Scholar, pretty much giving him instant procs on his weapons. The elemental grease is handy since it gives his weapon higher base damage, helping against those situations where statusing the enemy isn't as viable. The biggest issue with greases is that they are very hard to come by and take a decent amount of uses in order for them to level up to 3, but the reward for level 3 is all the while worth it if you can stack the status grease. The pots are the consumable with the most amount of differing effects, giving some completely new mechanics whilst others get a more potent version of their existing form. Universally though, they all get a damage buff on level 2, so let's focus on the level 3 forms instead. Fire pots spawn a lingering flame that deals damage in an area. Magic pots spawn glintstone projectiles that chase the nearby enemy. Lightning pot follows up the explosion with an additional lightning bolt. This one is kinda crazy with water, as lightning does extra damage in water. Holy water spews out holy mist, healing everyone in its radius. Rot pot spawns a cloud of rot that further increases the radius and potency of the rot spread. The poison pot is pretty much the same, but deals extra damage with its cloud. Fetid pots are pretty much the exact same as poison pots. Swarm pots gets a massive range increase, as well as a pool of blood that further increases its bleed potency. Freezing pots leave lingering crystals on the ground, which functions similarly to Hoarfrost Stomp, and increases frost buildup. Sleep pots have an increased range and a large increase in its buildup. Additionally, walking into the sleep cloud will generate FP for anyone who enters it. This is very handy if you ever go up against the balancers, or if you ever need some extra FP without having to worry about shards. Volcano pots spawn magma puddles, similarly to the fire pot, although way more potent. The alluring and beastler pot function the exact same and create a big smoke cloud that deals damage against anyone standing inside it. The only difference is beastler is red and alluring is yellow. Rancor pots now spawn ancient death rancor for instead, dealing extra damage and also knocking enemies back. Pots are generally very good to stack up on. They can be really powerful if built around. The biggest issue with most of them is how rare the best pots are, and how expensive it can be to keep stocking up on fire pots, similarly to how throwing knives are. Perfumes are for the most part same as pots level-wise, only gaining extra damage and status application at level 2, so we'll focus on the most important parts about the perfumes. Spark Aromatic receives a massive damage buff at level 3, as well as an additional hitbox that follow the cloud of sparks. Both of these hitboxes can hit the enemy and completely demolish anything in its path. Poison Aromatic has a spark effect shortly after the mist has spread, causing the mist to explode similarly to the Spark Aromatic. Uplifting Aromatic, Iron Jar Aromatic, and the Blood Boil Aromatic all give an aura that causes you to explode the next time you get hit. You will generally be looking to save the Spark Aromatics, as they are possibly the hardest hitting thing in Scholar's arsenal, being able to massively dunk on enemies and bosses' health bars. The biggest issue with aromatics, just like tears, is that perfumes are insanely hard to come by. However, it is all the while worth it if you can level them up to level 3 and save a handful of spark perfumes for big bosses. Now you may be wondering whether or not Scholar's passive works with the Wraith Calling Bell or not, and I'm here to tell you, it actually does. And with many other items in a category I'm going to call the reusables. The reusable category has items that require FP inside the consumable slots, such as the Bell, the Omen Bears, and the Ancestral Infant's Head. All of these get increased damage per level, but they are still incredibly good, as not only do they do a lot of damage, but are generally very good due to having a permanent source of consumable use, provided you have the FP to keep them up. As for the Infant's Heads, it could be placebo, but the effects do look slightly bigger at level 3. However, I could be wrong, so if you guys notice anything different, please leave a comment down below. The Crystals category contains items that are, well, crystals, and range from the Starlight Shard to the Gravity Rock items. All the level 2s in this category from my testing only increase the potency of each of the item's abilities, so once again we'll focus on the level 3 buffs. Starlight Shards at level 3 increases your maximum FP bar, allowing you to cast even more spells. Warming Stone further increases healing strength. All of the Glintstone based items spawn stronger and faster Glintstone shards that deal more damage. And finally, the Gravity Stone items gain some powerful area of effect moves. The fan now shoots multiple high damage shockwaves of Gravity Stones in a wide area. These waves do heavy damage as well as heavy poise damage. The Gravity Stone chunk now sucks enemies in before causing a massive gravity spike to erupt from the ground, knocking enemies up in the process and dealing heavy damage as well as poise. The crystals are incredibly powerful for Scholar, as Starlight Shards are heavily important for FP economy, and Warming Stones can function as more potions or possibly to help revive your teammates in a pinch. The Glintstone as well as Gravity Fans can not only help you clear camp significantly faster, even faster with his ultimate, but they also do crazy amount of damage. The big issue with most crystals is, once again, they're hard to come by, which makes your options generally more restrictive. The final and most important category for Scholar is what I like to call the food category, which contain items like the Foul Foot and the Exalted Flesh. The Foul Feet gain increased bonuses at level 2, and at level 3 gain the opposite foot's effects. In other words, if you eat a gold foot, you'll gain the effects of the silver foot, and vice versa. The Boiled Crustaceans give you increased damage resistance at level 2, and at level 3 giving you a massive 30% health increase. Pickled Turtlenecks pretty much does the same as Crustaceans, except it gives you a 20% maximum stamina increase at level 3, and additionally a significantly faster stamina regeneration at level 2. And finally, the Exalted Flesh gives you slightly increased damage at level 2 with an additional 20% affinity damage increase at level 3. The food category are, in my opinion, the most important items for Scholar, as the Boiled Crustaceans give you and your team an effective health of around 70%. Not only that, the Foul Feet heavily speeds up your farming efficiency, allowing you to reach level 50 significantly quicker, which in return helps you spend more runes on items. The Exalted Flesh is almost a must pick due to how much more damage you start dealing with it, especially since the affinity damage also affects pots, allowing you to pretty much dunk on any and every enemy in the entire game, provided you have hoarded an entire factory worth of pottery. Scholar's Bagcraft makes Scholar a very versatile character, allowing you to play him either at DPS by stocking up on tons of pots, daggers, and other tools to help you increase your damage output, or as a support, stocking up on items like crab legs, warming stones, and such. The Augur Relic further helps you fit into that support playstyle, as using buff items will spread it to your nearby enemies, as well as allowing your Estus Flask to heal them as well. I personally run the Scholar as a hyper support, stocking up on lots of support items while staying in the back line to debuff the boss, only dipping into the fight when I spot an opportunity to parry the boss using the offensive analysis ability. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, subscribe for more content. Tell me in the comments down below if you're going to use the Scholar more often after this video. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.